Right, it's 7 p.m. I welcome everybody to the January 21st, 2025 zoning board of appeals meeting. On tonight's agenda, we have two variance applications. One's an area variance, one's a use variance. And then we're going to be looking at a variance that has gone to the planning board. I believe is also a use variance. Okay, and we're going to address that as well. What we'd like to do at this time is conduct what we call an open forum or privilege of the floor, where anybody can ask questions of the zoning board, and it need not necessarily be items that are on tonight's agenda, because we'll have an opportunity to discuss those particular applications that particular time. So I'm going to make a motion that we open the open forum.
Second.
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lund.
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Board Member Gangster,
Aye.
Board Member Leone.
Aye.
We have any Zoom participants?
No more Zoom.
No,
You can't participate anymore.
No, but somebody that might be listening in.
no, there's no.
Okay, all right. Because what I would say then, is there anybody here that has anything they would like to contribute as far as the privilege of the floor? Okay, and no Zoom participants, so, but what I would, conducting this, would just make people aware of the fact that they can submit comments regarding issues they may have with the zoning board. Hopefully, it has something to do with the applications or anything of the similar nature to address. And they could do so in writing, say after the meeting transpires. That it, right. Looking like we're not having any participants, I'll make a motion that we close the public forum.
Second the motion.
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Board Member Leone,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lund.
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Board Member Gangster.
Aye.
So I'm gonna go in order of the tonight's agenda, and the first I'm seeing is Robert Bernard. Or Bernhard.
Yep.
Want to step forward and Lindsay, do we have
Yes.
okay. I'm gonna give you a pointer.
Okay.
That way you
Doesn't
can.
work.
Doesn't work on TV.
Doesn't
Oh,
work on the TV.
oh,
It won't show up on
Huh.
TV.
It's pretty self-explanatory. I think.
Oh,
You see
alright.
the drawing.
Do you want the drawing or the?
Oh, that's okay. That's, you can start there. Lindsay, that's fine.
There,
Yeah.
sorry, which
Either
one?
one.
You do.
That's great, right there.
Alright,
There's
you
my
got it.
beautiful drawing. This spring I plan on putting up a small garage building behind my house. 24 wide, 36 long, basically just to work in trucks and do my thing in there. If my plow breaks on a night like tonight, I have a place to pull it in and work on it, storage for my tractor and brush hog. Nothing more than that. And the reason I applied for the variance is the location of this behind my house. If on the next slide, you can see the property boundary lines coming up on the right side. My driveway is down here. The house is back quite a ways off the road. But the layout, if I could continue the drive up here into the side of, into the front of that building, that would be the ideal location for that building. When I'm 40 feet, well, I went a little further, maybe 43, because this property line in that hedgerow, I gave myself some leeway there, measured 40 out. And the building is over a little bit. There's a tree here where I would have to come around like this and into the building, and I would rather have a straight shot in, if that would be okay. And I'm still approximately 30 feet off of the property line. I did speak with Mike Freer, my neighbor, and he's got no qualms about it at all. He was actually excited to hear. He wants to see my building when it's done, so.
Just for orientation, so is that Barton Hill down there?
Barton Hill right here, yeah.
Okay, so how far into your property there, your house is the first building
Yep.
there, and then the proposed is there?
Yeah.
Okay, so how far back from the road are you?
My driveway is probably about 500 and some feet, and then behind that, and Mike's house is approximately right here. My other neighbors are up here on Barton Hill.
Okay. So you're pretty easily not visible from the road then?
No, not even at this time.
Yeah. Just based on that,
And that's I-88 to the south?
Behind me.
Yeah.
Yep.
all right, so the normally the requirement is 40 feet. You're gonna be at least 30 feet away.
Approximately 30, so if I could move it 10 or 12 feet this way closer, everything's lines up pretty nice the way I would like it.
Okay. So then you're looking at a 10-foot variance from what is required.
Approximately.
Okay.
If we say 12, that's probably gives us a buffer.
Okay. All right, so so if you were like 28 feet, and then the variance would be the 12 foot. And that would give you a little wiggle room.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So why there and not say the other side of your house?
The way it's laid out, we have two horses. There's a horse fence that runs down right there. There's a horse barn down here. And septic and leach field are off on this side. So the layout, the way it is probably the best spot for it. If I can talk my wife into getting rid of horses, I could repurpose that barn. Not the way it works for me.
But this barn is gonna be for equipment,
It's storage, yeah,
Storage.
garage, overflow.
and it's a pole barn?
Yes,
Okay,
yep, D&J construction. It's gonna be a slab and then built off the slab.
so does the pole barn structure, is it like outside of the slab itself?
The slab is question at this point. I think that's the way we're gonna go. It may be holes in the ground, pole barn type as well, but either way, it's a garage off of that or pole barn with some board inside it probably.
Okay. Any other questions?
Drive.
I'm gonna go ahead and address seeker. ZBA hereby determines that this request for an individual setback and lot line variance is an exempt type 2 action pursuant to Title 6 NYCRR, Section 671.5 C16, and no further action to seeker is required. Thanks.
Second.
Thank you.
Roll call. Mr. Black, sorry. Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Board Member Gangster,
Aye.
Board Member Leone.
Aye.
Okay. So the only other thing we need, if somebody be willing to set a public hearing.
I move that we set a public hearing for Robert Bernard.
Yep.
244 Barton Hill Road, the Lanson, SBL 81 to be .-2-1 for a 12-foot east side yard variance. For
Side or west side?
if north was the top of the map, which is,
I thought it was if you top of the map was south.
oh, it said north of.
Yeah, it's the east, this is the east side line.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was just going by the end at the top.
Oh, yeah, we have a more complete.
Per
Yeah.
per town of Williamsburg zoning law, section 8.6 sub 2 to be heard February 18th, 7 o'clock, or soon thereafter, as applicant can be heard.
I'll second that.
Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Chairman Gage,
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Board Member Gangster,
Aye.
Board Member Leone.
Aye.
So February meeting, have a public hearing, your more immediate neighbors will be notified, and if they choose to show up.
Okay.
allow them to do so.
Date February.
18th.
Okay, I'll be here.
Right.
Thank you very much.
See ya.
This section.
I love the pictures, that's great.
Okay, good.
It looks just like your property.
Wish I had a barn like that.
Karen Houlihan,
Yes.
give us an idea of what you're looking to.
Sure, so I brought a actual plan of what the container would look like. I only have one copy, though, I apologize. And then in the, I think you have something like that, yeah, in that application. So it's for a use variance. And it's in order to bring an 8x40 container, storage, shipping container into the property. And you can see on the map there where I put the in general location, yeah. Kind of far away, but that's pretty good. And then use it for, the goats are right here. And they're all contained within a fenced in area. And this is outside the fenced in area. And then be able to use this to actually milk, have a milking parlor in the one end. And then as per USDA regulations and all that for dairy, have a milk room in that container and then also a milk processing room in that container.
So these are goats and not cows?
Right,
Okay,
yes.
interesting.
There's your picture.
So that red building is, what is the, gonna be the perspective?
Yes, the one with the black outline, but this happens to have a red roof, but that's their shed where they are now, but this would be the container. I
Okay.
threw that in. And it has, with it, everything that need, like it'll have water coming in, electric coming in, and it's gonna have a septic area out here for any drainage.
I guess from what I'm seeing now, but this is gonna be a permanent structure.
It's not necessarily a permanent structure, it could be. I mean, it's gonna be just a container, it doesn't have any wheels or anything on it, and it's gonna be set on stone. It's not gonna be tied in, permanently, but it's intended to be a permanent construction.
Okay. So Chris, this structure is gonna be used like a barn or like some kind of barn or animal housing facility, correct?
No, not housing, no.
It's a milk parlor for them to bring the animals in, milk them, and then send them back. Yeah, they have
Oh,
a barn,
already,
they have
the
a barn
processing.
already with it, yeah.
Okay,
So. This, I'm trying to envision it, it has doors on the front.
It'll have one entrance door into an entrance area for people, a person entrance. And then on the one end, there's an entrance on this end, but just for goats. It'll be like a kennel door that you can let them in and get them out. And then on this side
So
coming
the
out,
human entrance is where on your diagram? It's the
Probably.
goat entrance is here.
it's probably. It would be right here. So this is also a changing room because regulations say that you have to. Those rooms can't open very quickly.
Entrance is here. The goat entrance is back here. Okay.
so is this unit coming with all the equipment for the?
No.
Okay,
It's
you're
just an
just
empty-
using the container,
Right,
Basically,
Okay.
using the container as if you were building a 10x40
exactly,
building.
yes.
So there's no windows.
There, well, I don't think I decided on where the windows would be, but yes, there'd be windows.
And so would you have to order it that way, or do you have to cut those?
You have to cut. The doors, all it has, I think, is a giant opening on the one end when it's used for storage. But you could seal that shut and then make other doors, there's all sorts of things you can.
So this is a generic container that you bought.
Right.
And that you're gonna adapt for this,
Right,
for this
exactly.
purpose, okay?
And
So-
no roof. Just.
No, they're watertight, they're waterproof,
Big box.
and yeah, and you can blast water on top of it and rodent proof too, which is nice.
It's a plus, huh?
Yeah,
so would this qualify as like if you were gonna construct an 8x40 barn? What is the, because I'm not understanding why it be considered as a use variance, I mean, could you,
Because they're not allowed in storage containers
okay,
in general.
right, but if she's not using it for storage,
It's being
would it
converted
be
into a
acceptable
building.
if you had to issue, say, a building permit? Provided that she has all the other amenities to make it functional as what this use is.
Yeah, I mean, she would still need a building permit if she's gonna, because she's gonna have to have electrical inspections and stuff like that.
Right,
But they're not It's the same as if somebody wanted to make these into a house, because they do build. They have these that they use for houses. They
Right.
Still have to come see you guys for a use variance, because the containers themselves are not allowed in the town.
But what
It
is
doesn't
the,
matter if it's for storage or a barn or whatever, right?
well, all right, but what is, why are containers specifically? Because it's not really functioning as a container per se. Right, I mean, again, if she wanted to construct an 8x40 building, there would be a concern with that, provided she met all the other requirements, right?
Yeah,
So,
I think it's the look.
okay,
It's just the fact that any container is being used,
Right.
that a container is being brought in. Requires a variance. Most likely, Nelson, it was to prevent people from living in it.
well, but that's a whole different thing.
What would make the container not a container?
Good question.
What ordinance?
Would it have to be anchored to
I'll read you the.
because of the ground,
Yeah.
strapped down?
Temporary transportable storage unit not to exceed 90 days. But as we already discussed,
Tractor trailer, you can't have tractor trailers.
So I guess the question is.
but this isn't gonna be temporary,
If,
correct? That's what I asked.
if
the
she
other-
sunk a footer into it somewhere, is it now not temporary and does this no longer apply?
No, because I still think it's a storage container.
But it's not a temporary. But the language we used in the ordinance there was a temporary.
Yeah, transportable,
Transportable temporary, and if we
Yeah.
anchor it, now it's no longer temporary.
That's what I'm talking about, you know, what would make it not a container?
If you're cutting windows and doors into the thing, you're turning it into a building.
You know, I mean, what would it have to make, would you have to have some sort of footing underneath?
Well, no, because it's still a container to start with.
But that's
that's-
not what the law, but
Alright.
the law isn't a container, the law is a temporary.
It's a temporary storage unit not to exceed 90 days.
but
Right, so I
It
guess
says
what we're putting
temporary.
in is the word temporary, what do we need to do to make it not temporary?
right, and it
Or what
also,
does she need to do to make
It's
it
also
not
going to be a
temporary?
storage unit.
well, and it's also, it says
Well, it's-
transportable. Because if you could buy
It's
a
a-
shed
it's a-
like this, right,
Mhm.
at what's the countryside place there at the corner of 158 and 20. You could buy a building and which you could say, well, that's a container too.
Yeah.
I guess I would be a little bit concerned about seeing what is being proposed as a temporary transportable storage unit.
Well, it's a temporary transportable storage unit when it's put there. When it's transformed into a milking shed,
But
no.
exactly, so it's basically the structure of the building and become, it's kind of an odd building in a sense. I mean, you're making use of something that had been functioning, in a different way, but again, so if she wanted to use this as a milking park, what would be necessary to basically not have to think of it as that temporary storage unit? I mean, even a trailer, I don't know if that's to say.
Well, alright, so I guess the question is, rather than a use variance, if we find it to be as proposed, not a temporary transportable storage unit, can we just find it not to violate the ordinance?
Yeah.
That's up to you whether or not you want to open that can of worms.
Well, that would almost be my inclination, but then I'm asking you because,
Or is that a question we need to ask Teresa?
It might be a Teresa question, because I believe in talking to Dale, the reason for this was that when these went cheap, you could buy these things for $500. So instead of spending $5,000 on a shed, people were buying these and dropping them in their yards and using them for whatever, sheds, storage containers.
okay,
And the looks of them were not consistent with the town. Basically why I believe that, from what I was told, that's why that.
Okay. You see that? I would have an, I'd be wondering about that because people can build a house. Could be really unconventional,
Right.
you know, I mean, just have all manner of different what we,
Like mine.
well, or accept as, you know, regular home construction. You could paint it any weird color, right? There's no restriction on,
I'm gathering this was passed along with the ban on mobile
I-
homes. Then it probably
I think
went
some of those
together, it
people
was
living
the
in-
same.
I mean, I'm sure that that
It
brought
was
up
the
to
same
people living
ban.
Yeah,
The same
but that's a
people
whole
for the
different
same
thing
reason.
because that involves certificate of occupancy and everything else and people really. I know that that's what they're trying to discourage, correct?
Yeah,
Or
it does.
prohibit outright.
But here's, not that Karen would ever do this. Here's the problem, you allow it and somebody moves into it, how does anybody know that anybody's living in there? Do you get what I'm saying? That's why having a paper trail of the variance gives us the right to. I can't just
Well, so,
assume somebody's living in
Fine.
there.
all right, New York State Tax Credit Program for historic, rehabilitation. There's a 3-step process. Third step
Karen, you could sit if you.
is after the work has been done. The applicant sends photos in for verification that they did the work according to the standards that were set out for them in order to get the credit. Sort of feel like this is a similar situation. That provided the work is done to turn it into the goat shed, the way it's being described, then it's no longer violating the ordinance.
I'm just playing devil's advocate with this because there's a lot of them that I'm trying to get removed from the town right now.
Okay,
So going the route that I think you're trying to talk opens up, it opens up an avenue, I don't think that. But to Dan's point, that's not a terrible, by any means, terrible idea, but just saying no, because if you attach it to the ground, it's no longer temporary, I don't like that. From a
Well, I'm just saying that
enforcement
we make,
standpoint.
we would, if we're passing, if we're going to issue a variance, that would be a condition of the variance.
But-
Within whatever X time, these conditions need to be met or else.
the problem is because as a use variance, the criteria for that, and this doesn't really seem to be what's being asked, because if you were just, this is an R2.
Yes.
Okay, so, and because it's agricultural in nature, that is allowed, correct? In R2?
A shed or a milking parlor, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's
without,
agricultural, yeah.
right, without even, you know, unless, but again, I wouldn't want to say deny it based on, because it doesn't have the appearance of other, you know, barns or structures that allow for this kind of operation. Because the focus appears to be on conducting an agricultural activity within just this kind of unique structure. Like I say, you could, you know, buy one of those ready-made sheds, and there doesn't seem to be an issue with that. I mean, if this comes as a flat roof, I mean, what if you put a peak roof on it just to give it an appearance of being a more conventional? But my understanding is there isn't anything that says that, you know, these structures have to be of, you know, from an appearance perspective, you know, conventional looking. And again, I have a problem with this because they're talking about a temporary transportable storage unit. But it's not gonna be used as storage unit. It's not gonna be temporary and for the most part, it's not gonna be even transportable once it's set in place.
Or let's look at it this way. Instead of looking at it as a temporary transportable storage unit that will be there more than 90 days. To approve it under section 3, permitted use as a building or structure accessory to an agricultural use,
Right,
provided that we verify that it's used in, as proposed in the agricultural use.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
Okay.
I just don't want and I know I'm playing
Right.
devil's advocate a little bit. It's not that I don't want her to get it. What I'm trying to say is I don't want you guys from an enforcement standpoint to open this up now to where somebody can say this is a she shed, right? Where they put some windows in it. It's no longer a.
Well, no, well, that's why I wanna make it subject to an actual
ag.
Yes.
ag use under
yeah, I think
section 3.
that's a
yeah.
legitimate point.
No, and that's.
And
that's
that
fine.
gives you your
Yeah, right.
leeway with the others as well, do you have a farm?
Right.
So then this becomes an accessory building, is that what it, yeah,
Yeah, this is an
Building or
accessory structure
structure.
permitted to permitted agricultural use.
What's the, what is?
So it's 5.2.1 sub 3 is what I
Yeah.
want.
now let me look at two because,
Well, it says it's permitted in R1, R2.
right, but if it's being used as an agricultural, isn't there something about it, the setbacks for
200
that
feet.
200 feet? So that's
100
where
feet
we
off the
would-
road?
Off the side.
Any of the,
Because there's a 200 foot off to the side there.
of the property line.
Yeah, this is
Right.
way more than 200 foot.
And that's what, so,
Okay.
so we're safe there and all that.
Yeah. Because again, there's no, it would be hard to justify this as a use variance perspective. I think that, you know, we would feel more comfortable, again, as an accessory structure for permitted use, provided it meets the criteria for permitted use. But say if this were a building, that somebody, again, accessory buildings that we dealt with before, obviously this goes beyond, so it would still need a building permit, right? Just
Yes.
based on the square footage.
It needs a building permit, but if it's ag, it's not subject to any inspections.
No, but you would still have to, provide a building permit, right?
Correct.
Obviously, it's be pretty much, it's like prefab built already.
Right.
So in a sense, if it meets, its placement is not in need of a variance.
Under 8.21.
Right, and then going back to what you had pointed out, then there may not be any need for any variance at all, correct?
Right. And I would think
Because what
we would just find it to be a specimen, it's being used as a milk parlor, it would be an accessory structure to a permitted ag use.
yeah,
So do we need to make an official finding of it? I assume we
we probably,
since Chris already denied.
yeah, I mean, we can,
Right. So
Right.
we need to make a determination.
Well, you know, provided these modifications are done to make it the agricultural facility.
Right.
As,
Yeah.
as we discussed.
right. But it doesn't, as a structure, have to meet any appearance criteria, correct? Because there, I
I
don't see.
don't believe it's not if we're,
You're
if
right,
we get
yeah.
under that, no.
And I would be more concerned about that because then, you know, where in the ordinance does it provide anything as to what, you know, the appearance should be? You know,
For agricultural buildings.
So, put farms around, I don't know, the normal,
so with goats, you milk them how many times a day?
Twice,
Twice. Similar to cows,
yes,
okay?
yes.
And how many goats will you have?
When I start out, when this is in place, it'll be 10 does.
Oh, okay. And starting out and you expect to have,
Yeah, so
How
every
many-
year you breed 10 and they have anywhere from 2 to 4. And so you get, you know, exponentially more goats so yeah, it'll go up to, and I don't anticipate going past 80. I don't think I can handle more than that, but
how much property you have?
20 acres.
20 acres, okay.
Goats don't take up much room either, so I could have 1,000 goats.
Well,
Not that I'm gonna.
yeah, that would be, well, you would have to deal with that, but,
let's not do another chicken thing.
yeah, well, again, that's, and so the goats would be, you're just milking them, and then, I don't know. The milk product is like for cheese
Yeah.
primarily?
Yes, yogurt, cheese, cream cheese, feta, milk. Yeah.
Okay,
I'm going through the process with the New York State Ag and Markets. It's all gotta be approved the way they need it to be. And then same thing with USDA. And they actually had a request that they knew that some towns have issues with different types of buildings, and they wanted something in writing. Because I'm applying for a loan specifically to buy this, to put it in place, to be able to furnish it. And they needed, before they'll give me the loan, they wanted something saying that this would be allowed in the town. So I don't know if maybe
Okay.
whatever you're gonna approve, I could take that and show it to them.
yes,
Well, who does that? Who owns the property?
Technically on paper, it's Dunn Home Development, which I am a sole member of.
Okay, so it is, okay.
So you talk to yourself and you.
Yeah, I keep I put the motion forth and I,
so did USDA, and they were the ones that were asking about the structure of the container?
right.
What, did they express any objections or concerns or?
No, they just wanted to make sure that their investment is, and as long as it's approved by New York, it's all very convoluted. As long as it's approved by New York Ag, that they give me the ability to sell milk and milk products.
Right,
So I go get everything approved by them, but the federal government just wants to make sure that their investment is allowed. You know, if I don't pull this in and then all of a sudden the town, Chris comes up with his tow truck and, you know, tows it out of there because it wasn't allowed. So they just want something in writing
For
before
the
that.
record, I don't know.
yeah, and actually you shouldn't phrase it like that because it's no longer transportable
Right,
once
right,
it's there.
yes.
Again, because that's what we're looking at.
Because we're doing it under a different section. I'm not
Exactly.
sure that that's.
Right, but we
No,
don't
it'll
want to
have-
make reference to that.
It'll have utilities, be hooked up to water, electric, the septic, like I said,
You put in doors and windows.
doors and windows, yeah.
So then,
Well, at this point, I think it's more important that the actual milking equipment goes in. Because we are finding it's accessory to the ag use, and so we need the.
Yeah.
So it's more important that that stuff is in there.
Yeah. And that's part of the loan as well, it's
Right.
all part of it.
all right, so I'm just gonna throw this out and then we'll fine tune it and then maybe come up with, a vote on it. Then 5.21 lists permitted uses in residential district. This is R2. Accessory uses in residential district shall be limited to the following. Sub 3, building or structures accessory or to permitted agricultural uses. And that we don't feel that,
The permitted agricultural use being a goat farm.
right,
This being a structure necessary to the milking of the goats
right.
is a permitted accessory use.
But what was originally sought to define this as a temporary transportable storage unit does not apply. That's kind of what we
Right.
decided as well.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that we can say that I'll make a motion that, that we're finding that this particular structure, is a permitted use, according to 5.2.13, for the purposes of an agricultural activity. And if it meets the other criteria, again, the 200-foot setback, it's not even in need of a variance.
Right, and that the temporary storage facility cited under 5.2.1 sub 8 does not apply.
It does not apply, okay. So for a building permit, now, it does not have to have electrical, right? I mean, that's okay. Is there anything that would and should be, you know, I guess this unit be modified such that you're comfortable with providing the building permit? Does it need like a certain,
Yeah, it's gotta be on a stone pad or something.
okay,
Just like any, just like a shed.
okay. Do we have criteria for that?
Or you can just say provided a building permit.
Normally,
Yeah,
the
so-
building
there's no
permit is
state
issued within
criteria.
6 months.
We don't
like
have
we normally-
anything.
No,
Now,
But-
state has.
right, but when I built my own garage, I know that the town has criteria as far as like the pad that the garage was to be built on. You know, like the haunches and
That's state, that's all state building codes.
okay,
Yeah.
but the town provided me with that information.
Yeah, yeah. we have-
Okay,
But that's what I'm saying. By the state, she has to have at least a stone pad, like you can't just put this on the ground. You can't put a shed just on the ground.
okay,
It has
fair
to be On a
enough.
stone pad or a concrete foundation of some sort, whether
Right.
it be a slab or footings, 4-foot frost walls.
Is there anything that,
Specification, how thick the stone pad should be that dug into the ground?
It doesn't really say.
No?
I think it might say 6 inches.
no, it's more than that, because again, when I had the slab built for my. Oh, you're talking about if it was
I'm talking
just
about for like, just if it's just
Oh,
stone.
stone?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the haunch, if you do an Alaskan slab, then you're talking 12-inch by 12-inch haunches with a,
Right.
you know.
But that's what I mean, the criteria that the town provided for me,
Yes,
so that I don't go ahead and do something and then find out, well,
yes,
It
and
doesn't-
there is a criteria how much stone she needs.
okay,
I believe it's 6 inches, don't quote me on that, but it's in there.
all
I
right,
think we're doing 12 because the pipes will come down out of the,
Yeah, you
The
can go,
bottom
you can
and
go
then
more,
drain.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
great,
Oh,
the more you
right.
go, the better.
okay. So do you have details of the construction or of the placement of this container? Like you were just making reference to like the stone, apparently you're gonna fix this into the ground,
yeah, I've had conversations with the person who's gonna do the site work. So he came and gave me an idea, so he could give me an estimate. So
okay,
there's a written up estimate, and I think it said 12 inches, but I
all
don't
right.
know all the details.
Well, maybe if you could provide those details to Chris.
Yeah, we need
So
that
you
for
could
building.
look at it prior.
Yeah.
again, so we don't run into a scenario where they say, well, you know, you need more stone or other aspects of this. I mean, also, it looks like you're gonna have water, right, part of the operation, so you're gonna need some kind of drainage and,
The drainage goes out into the, what do they call, interceptor, no,
Beach field.
yeah, but it begins with I. 500 gallon,
Infiltrators.
infiltrated
Oh,
in
okay.
500 gallon
The
tank.
leach field, she's using infiltrators for the leach field.
and that's acceptable?
Infiltrators, yeah.
Okay,
Infiltrators are just
alright.
Chambers, basically.
Okay,
Plastic chambers that they use instead of the pipe now.
Right.
It's the chamber, yeah.
okay,
Infiltrators are definitely.
and this is kind of laid out in the details?
In the written up estimate, there hasn't been an actual you know, it's gonna be 300 feet, you know, it's gonna be a 500 gallon tank. But, and I on here, I drew, you know, a green square, but it's not laid out yet. It's just, we had the first meeting. You know.
Somebody else will do that. Anyway,
Okay.
The county.
the leach field.
You're right, that's it.
All right,
Does it have to be anchored in any way?
A shed has to be, so I don't see why this wouldn't.
Okay.
This is a new one for me, so I mean, I'm gonna have to do some homework, but there's gotta be a reason to have it anchored, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, even a 8x40 shed, you would need to have anchored.
Hmm.
Now,
A trailer too.
in-
Trailer park.
Yeah, all the trailers in the trailer park have to be anchored down.
Yeah, I didn't think that.
Yeah, so I mean, there's gotta be some code for these that they have to be. for something.
Okay.
So that's gonna take some homework, but I have time for that, so.
all right.
She's not putting this thing in tomorrow.
No, but it'd be good, you know, you don't have to provide us with the estimate, but you can provide us with what is gonna be done, you know, basically to have this thing placed.
Well, for the
Building.
building permit,
Yeah.
I'll give him every detail he wants.
Okay, and, yeah, and you want to maybe do that prior to actually, you know, having this thing, placed, so again, you don't run
Right.
into a problem, you need to have this and that. So you're comfortable with that?
Yep.
Okay, all right.
Are you making a motion?
I will, let me, all right. So I'm gonna make a motion that the proposed, storage, container milking parlor, is a permitted use, based on 5.213, and that, provided it meets the criteria for, an agricultural operation in R2, that the zoning board approves of it in that manner.
We lost some language there.
Yeah.
Well, all right, then.
All right, let me try. All right, so I propose that the zoning board finds Dunhome Development / Karen Holohan of 1653 Schoharie Turnpike 77.001. Sorry, 00-1-3.122. Project proposed storage unit / milking parlor is a permitted accessory use under zoning ordinance 5.2.1 sub 3. That the temporary transportable storage unit prohibition in 5.2.1 sub 8 does not apply.
Okay,
And that all, and that she proves everything she needs for a building permit to issue within 6 months.
Second.
Vice Chairman Lack.
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
Aye.
Chairman Gage,
aye.
Board Member Gainster,
Aye.
Board Member Leo.
Okay, so far so good. Again, the next thing would see Chris, just make sure that all the details are made known so that, again, it is kind of a unique, use of this. Again, it's not gonna really be a storage shed. You're using the structure of what is a container as a structure for an agricultural activity.
Thank you.
Are you gonna be selling in retail?
Yeah, farmers markets.
Oh, okay,
Yes, yeah, hopefully in the summer, July.
great.
Yeah, should be fabulous. Schenectady. Thank you very much.
I was wondering what you're gonna do for Henry Hyden.
That's what it said.
Okay. Sir, you're up. And you are,
My name is Kyle Dupert. I'm here on behalf of the Structure Four Company / ING Civil. I appreciate the board's willingness to hear this kind of last minute. So I think the objective tonight is just to get an initial feel from the board. Obviously, we realized there would be a secondary meeting with a public hearing if this were to advance. But before going to that stage, we kind of need to get a feel from you guys. So ING Civil is a civil engineering firm. They primarily build bridges throughout New York State, various counties, municipalities. They do some road building as well. So this parcel was previously approved. It's on Dwaynesburg Road. It's approximately 81 acres. It was previously approved for a solar installation. That owner had realized that apparently the transmission lines in this area are not sufficient for the amount of energy that they're going to produce. So it's actively being marketed for sale. We have a contract to purchase the property contingent upon approval to use it for our use. So in talking with Chris, the property is zoned R2. Initially, we thought we'd get away with a special use permit, but based upon last week's meeting, actually a gentleman before me, they determined that it would actually have to be use variance. So we're showing on the parcel here proposed storage area. So it's construction equipment, excavators, loaders, traffic bollards, the flashing signs you see on the side of the highway. We do not plan to build this building that's shown on the parcel right now. It may be something that we would build in the future, and Chris suggested that we should show it on the plan just so that the board was aware that that may in the future be something that we would seek approvals for. So at this time, no septic would be required. We wouldn't be drilling for a well. We did discuss at last meeting, at the planning board meeting last week, that full SWIP would need to be done. And our intention would be to engage the firm who did SWIP for the solar use. But again, we're kind of trying to get an initial feeling from the board on whether or not this would be something that they would be willing to issue a variance on. The nature of the business is such that probably 10 months out of the year, most of the equipment is on the job site anyway throughout New York State. So, the amount of traffic in and out of the site is going to be pretty limited overall. And, the dollar value of the equipment that we're talking about, we would want to maintain as much buffering as possible from both the roadway and the neighbors. I think this parcel is unapproved. This parcel is the antiques, what do we say?
needful things.
Needful things,
Yeah.
yes. So if, we get a positive reception this evening, we would certainly endeavor to have a conversation with neighbors prior to a subsequent public hearing meeting.
Would that be fenced in?
I don't have the answer to that. My hunch is yes. His current location, all of it's fenced in, gated right now. I mean, this is like millions and millions of dollars.
So, the storage, the equipment that would be stored there is currently stored somewhere else.
Yeah, so we're currently located in Town Colony, and there's a contract to purchase that property. Yes.
Are you gonna clear the place?
It's currently wooded, yes, we would only clear the section that we would look to store on,
Okay, I
we would,
mean, what will it look like after it's clear? I mean, it's gonna be a mud pit or what?
no, we would put crusher run down,
Okay,
gravel. Which is obviously somewhat permeable, but from a SWIFT perspective, it's considered impermeable. You know, the weight of the equipment itself, I don't think would really work well on just bare ground, so I think, I'm not sure on the depth of the crusher run, but
so I'm talking, like, if it was a windstorm, how much dust would it come up off of it?
understood, I think we would look to mitigate as much as possible, but compared to what was approved previously, this basically, there was a roadway coming in here, and then like all of that was approved for solar installation, so
So
obviously
so the installation have grass underneath.
not the pads they sit on.
Yeah, but it's usually surrounded by grass.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah, but there, from what I saw on a approved site plan, there wasn't too much grass.
Okay.
How much it's an 81-acre parcel,
81.1 acres.
okay, and you're gonna have the whole thing?
Correct.
Okay, how much of that is gonna be utilized for this activity?
So the storage yard is approximately 10 acres. We listed on our narrative, I don't know if the narrative was included in the packet, but I think we listed about 12 acres to account for the storage area of 10 acres, the roadway, and then the potential future building, septic area, leach field.
All right, so the building is gonna be,
There is no building at this time.
right, but ultimately that is,
It's a potential. It's not something that we would seek in the short term.
okay. But the main thing is to have the area for the storage of these materials.
Correct. The equipment.
Okay.
Yep.
And again, it's gonna be, say, 12 acres at most?
Correct.
So, the remainder of the parcel,
We would leave wooded. We would totally undisturbed. Again, our objective is to maintain as much buffer as possible.
So most of the equipment will be stored there during the winter?
Yeah, I mean,
Like, I'm just saying, is there gonna be a regular parade of equipment going in and out, at the beginning of the day, or at the end of the day?
no, I mean, primary hours that we listed were 7 to 5, 7 to 4, 7 to 5, I think. Occasionally, like in the midst of the busy season, like occasionally, like bridge girders will come in before they're ready to go to the actual job site. And then like the old bridge girder will come back to the job site until it can be scrapped or wherever it ends up afterward. But in terms of like multiple truck traffic per day, no. I mean, the nature of the equipment is, it's not easy to move, so it doesn't come and go from job sites quite often.
Good.
Jonathan and I were just mulling over, are there things that, if it doesn't necessarily fall under a permitted use, but is it something comparable that uses require either site plan approval or uses permitted by special use permit? Correct, isn't that kind of what we're thinking about?
No,
Yeah,
that's what.
we kind of went through that exercise.
That's why I can look to you guys.
Yeah.
By the planning board, because it
And we
doesn't
had-
fall under any of those.
We had
Well-
the conversation with with your attorney as well, and we were kind of like, all right, could this fall under a private garage? And
Well, that's why I asked, because say if some of these other activities utilize the same amount of acreage, that we could at least ballpark it in that regard.
you're talking about the permitted uses that are specifically enumerated in the code.
Well, yeah, I mean, well, all right, use requiring a site plan approval, one is a municipal building,
We're a private company, just because we do municipal work though, we're.
No, but it's the building,
It's usually comparable.
Oh,
right,
okay,
the
okay.
operation of a
Oh,
a
understood, okay.
building,
Yep.
or there's other, I mean, a firehouse, an ambulance building, obviously, this looks like it would be probably a little more than that. Yeah, uses permitted by special use permit, adult care facility, a bowling alley, campground. We also listed as a public garage. That's kind of what almost I'm thinking, because it's,
So Teresa actually went through the definition of public garage, and we would have to be open to the public for service on vehicles.
okay, well, all right.
But, so what's the definition if she went there, a private garage?
Well, that's what I kind of jokingly
It's
said,
gotta
where I
be
was like,
more-
so, if we wanna work on our own equipment in that garage. But the problem is, we're not really applying for the improvements right now, we're not applying for the building right now, we're applying for the yard storage.
Right, okay.
Which it'll,
Well,
I
let
mean,
me
it's on a much smaller scale, but you're gonna have a gentleman who was before me the other evening, and, he has like a fence company business, and he's trying to store his fencing. And it'll be the same question.
Well, the only thing, and I think my understanding on that is that he lives on that property?
No,
He doesn't. All right,
he lives close to it, near it, but he doesn't live on it.
okay. Well,
So,
because then we would think of it maybe as a home occupation,
Right.
but that might be a stretch as well, so.
the existing vegetation screening
Yes.
is deciduous. Meaning it's not gonna be as effective in winter.
I think that's part of the reason that we try to set it back as far as we could. I mean, there's obviously, some economics involved in terms of, if we went all the way back. That's a long, long road, and there's some topography too, it slopes down for the road.
Well, no, what I'm getting at is the potential for planting evergreens. As part of your screening.
Yeah, that would be a planning board.
Yeah, that's, yeah, we're, the driveway there,
Mhm.
how far does that, what's the length of that before it goes to the back storage area? It goes past the building,
The mini L shape, how long
Yeah.
is the gray?
Yeah, I know, I don't show a length on, it's 150 feet to the proposed future building.
okay,
And then the building, I think we had like
so maybe it's 300 feet,
approximately.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right. Which is a pretty good, to be honest, I remember this, we went to assess this because the issue came up of how much in the manner of tree that you could remove for a solar project.
Mhm.
So in fact, Bill Wenzel and I went back there and we were looking for trees to see what would be cut. And then, again, most of it was scrub. It was primarily an overgrown, like
Yeah.
hayfield. So I do remember that, but 300 feet is pretty far back.
Yeah, again, our desire is to maintain as much screening and buffering as possible. We don't really want people to know we're back there, to be honest.
There's currently 2 campers on this property that I would like to get.
Which are not ours, we have no involvement with those, that was one of the first things Chris said to me when I came to ask me about this.
Not at this moment, but they're being used, yes.
Uh,
See those
Is it a
Yeah.
squatter?
It used to just be
Is it a
one.
squatter or does it relate
Yeah.
to the?
No, I think it's the people that own the property.
Oh, okay, well,
But we do have tower back.
I would be, you think it's the people that own this property?
Yeah,
I would be shocked if that's the case, because I don't even think the people that own this property are in the United States of America. I mean, his email address is all Chinese characters.
he might have gave somebody permission to use it, I don't know.
Yeah,
But they're 2 very nice campers. But no septic, no nothing, where are they dumping their stuff? So,
well, are they just storing them there?
no, they got nice pads, have you been down there?
I've driven by it, I've gotten out.
They're on nice crusher run pads, they're not just being stored there.
Oh.
And the doors they're pulled in, so the doors are facing each other. No, they're-
Something you might wanna think about.
It's like a mini.
I mean, when we take, if we take deeds of property, obviously.
all right, let me ask you this. Are there any other scenarios in town where there are properties that have just storage for equipment or?
Because I was
Where the
looking under
occupants
C one and C two, and I wasn't seeing
I-
anything that would cover this either.
No, in fact, it's almost identical to what it is in R2, so,
So,
So, yeah, I mean, without the buildings, yes, I mean, Northern Clearing does something like this.
okay,
They have a building, but they primarily use the majority of that acreage to store their heavy machinery, their mats, the mats that they use for when they do the tree
Trans-
clearing.
okay.
and what did they consider?
Well, that is in a commercial.
Right, well, again, we were looking at the uses permitted in commercial zones.
Storage
and-
facility is in there. Their storage facility is in either C one or C two, can't remember which one it was. It might be C two.
Okay, C2 is manufacturing and light industrial.
So the use variance we're being asked is storage.
Storage.
Yeah, storage facility
Yeah.
does say that,
Alright,
okay.
so that's what we consider a storage
Yeah,
facility.
okay.
Uh, All right,
So the
was-
question is, do we set it for public hearing and then run ideas by Teresa,
Yeah.
what we might be able to fit it under
I'm almost thinking that I want to confirm with Teresa first.
before we even set it?
Because I was just gonna ask, what was her feeling about, I mean, would it be easier just to change that parcel to a zoning for C2?
Well, that would be the town board.
Well, I know,
Yeah.
but that would alleviate any of these other concerns.
Right.
So I think Teresa, and you can go back and watch the video, said the easiest thing for him to do to apply and try to get a use variance, because storage facility is not a permitted use in the R2 zone.
Right.
Under anything,
Right,
site plan
Exactly.
approval, special
Right.
permit, nothing.
So
so
And-
under what authority could we grant the variance?
Well, but the problem is a use variance. It's the criteria, and one of the things I just
Okay.
learned, you have to meet all four of those.
Okay.
Where an area variance, you know, hey, you have the 5 for
Oh, all right, so
criteria.
the use variances, you have to have looked at, you can't make money off it any other way, right? Is that what we're back
Right.
under?
But-
Yeah, okay, I
And it
remember
would
this.
be,
with the-
I believe it's a land use variance, right? It's not. Or,
Well,
yeah,
it's an activity, use variance that you want to conduct an activity that is not allowed on that particular zone,
right.
parcel.
And in order to do that, I think you have to prove that there's no economically viable solution for the parcel other than that activity. As I recall, we're going back to the natural gas.
Well,
But that was when we really dug into what was needed for use variance.
Can I also just state, like, mention that if we were to seek the rezone, that would, you know, in perpetuity change the nature of the
Yeah.
parcel as opposed to you potentially granting us a conditioned use variance. So, you know, if we were to at some time in the future dispose of this parcel, you know, revert back to the R2 zoning as opposed to potentially becoming C1 or C2 or whatever it is. that
That's
we
the other
see.
thing that Teresa said, if they were to ever, the use variance. Nobody else could use this land for something unless it was the exact same thing that you gave them permission to do.
Well, I think there's also issues with spot changing.
So.
Yeah,
There is,
right.
yeah,
Yeah,
spot
true.
zones, yeah.
Well, basically what she was saying is the property's protecting. So that somebody else couldn't buy it and do something.
And do anything else. that would
Something
be
else
done
other
in
than what
C1
they
zone.
got.
they'd have to ask for another use variance.
Right.
Right,
Yeah, we couldn't turn around and flip to somebody who wanted to
Right.
do
Yeah.
80 acre storage yard.
But if you change it to commercial, the options.
Right.
Would be.
But the fact that, you know, for all intents and purposes, it was approved for a solar farm.
Correct.
Obviously, they just never, you know, pulled the plug on
Right.
it or went forward. So
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but I think from a demonstration of hardship, if the transmission lines that are there are not sufficient for what was approved. then-
Well,
I don't think the
that's,
transmission lines are close enough to where that is.
Yeah.
They're a ways went back.
Okay,
yeah,
So the main transmission lines are actually, you have to cross over Thousand Acre Road to get to them. They're in between Thousand Acre and, well, they're actually past Thousand Acre, right? They run through Gage, through all that.
cause they have the same,
Perpendicular to Gage and Young's Road, and they go up through that way.
this same seller has another parcel that's much larger. I think further north of this, that was also approved.
Right. That, which would have been closer to the transmission line.
Yeah. So
Okay. This, I think, was just too far away.
yeah. But they should have,
It would have cost them
Figured that out prior
millions
to-
to get it there.
gone to all that trouble, so.
Yeah, I mean, all the easements they would have had to get, across people's property.
Well, that's beyond them. I mean, that's, I think my inclination is to get more input from Teresa and see what we can do. I'm just concerned, that the criteria for a use variance, I would need to see an example of where we can make it work. And again, because that criteria is pretty, specific,
Yeah.
and it has and all the criteria has to be met. Like an area variance, something like a setback, there's a lot more wiggle room. And maybe there is a way to do that, but I would need to find out, before, I don't wanna, engage in this and then just realize, there's no way that we can justify it. I mean, I'd be willing to do it if we could be comfortable with it, but, so getting back to that, what I'd asked you, a scenario similar to this.
Yeah.
But that's on R2 or no? It is on R2.
Yep.
Okay.
He basically owns a fence company, wants to store his equipment and his like fencing and stuff like that on his
Okay.
parcel. So it's essentially the same thing. It's a storage in
Okay,
of a lot for business purposes.
all right. Is there anybody else that has a scenario where they're just storing materials and, without actually living on the property itself? Didn't I just ask you that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there is. I mean, like I
But
said,
how
northern
is-
clearing would be one example.
So how is that allowed though?
If we want to get technical, because it's in the commercial.
Well,
zone.
that's-
Oh, and then
that is
that's,
another
okay,
one
that's,
that we
yeah,
gotta-
okay, that's right.
I mean, if we want to get technical, would you see Collar City's doing the same thing?
Well,
I'm I'm trying to think of lots in the town that are storing stuff.
yeah, no, you're right, because that's like the end of Turnbull Road, right? And of course, he lives around the corner as well,
Right.
but,
But that is still R2 because it doesn't turn commercial to the other side of Albert Road, I believe.
right, because there are commercial
So
that
that would be in an
interspersed.
R2 zone. I would say Rick's, but Rick's is actually commercial.
Yeah, it
Rick's
starts,
Speed, it goes back
Oh,
to
yeah,
commercial
no.
for a little while.
yes,
Do I think, yeah, I think there probably is other,
all right,
it's no different. I mean, it is different, let me take that back. But if a farmer had a ton of farm equipment, it's kind of essentially the same
fair enough,
Right,
but,
what's allowed.
No, I know.
now, What's allowed in there, I guess, a
thing.
whole
Yeah,
other.
I understand, I'm
Look
just,
at the car wash.
That's
behind the car
commercial.
wash. Is that commercial? there?
Yeah.
Cause he's got a storage, car storage or
Yeah.
something back there.
there's a house right there, actually, behind the car wash. Think what else?
So Nelson, you want to talk with the town attorney before we move forward, is that correct?
yeah, I just,
I think he just wants clarity, because Teresa sent him here, so.
That's fair enough.
But you didn't tell us.
No, I understand.
And I think, and that's why I'm telling him, I think what Nelson wants is just clarity from Teresa.
We wanna know what Teresa is
Right.
thinking we can do for you later.
Understood, yeah, I just need to have a sense of the timing so I can manage my clients' expectations and ultimately, you know, this is a purchase contract that we have, so there's timelines in that purchase contract. So is it feasible that you can speak with Teresa without me? Like, if you speak with Teresa later this week or the following week, is it still possible that I could get back for the public hearing in February's meeting?
No, I think it would, by that time, it probably March would be a better bet.
Well,
Because we, unless,
should be under those circumstances, go ahead and move forward. And then, but if it doesn't,
I could just choose to remove myself from the agenda, yeah, like withdraw the application.
Contingent on that.
contingent, and
Right.
then if that doesn't, if it turns out that, oh no, we don't wanna do this, then. cancel.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna, we're not gonna
Turn
turn
then we'll just rule against it at the public hearing.
Right.
We don't have the power to do it.
Right.
Or I would just submit.
Well, actually, it's a special,
we would
the
have the
application
power
is
to
a special
deny it,
use,
but
okay,
we wanna see if we can make it work,
right.
so.
But I think what Daniel's saying is you can still set.
We can
public
set the
hearing.
public hearing for February 18th. And then see what information we can gather by then that would allow us to.
Contingent upon council's feedback.
The council would inform us of what we could and could not do as far as. And as far as not needing the special use.
And if for some reason it drags into March, you can always leave the public hearing open.
Yeah, fair enough, all right, let me just, I wanna look at the criteria for use. Just refresh our
We're
memories.
trying to avoid the need for an actual use variance, because those are hard to prove.
Hey, trust me, if I didn't have to do this, I wouldn't, but.
Okay, okay. The first criteria is the applicant cannot realize a reasonable return provided the lack of return is substantial as demonstrated by competent financial evidence. But right there, this isn't something that's looking to generate some kind of income, right? You're just using this as a function.
For
storage.
business they already have, yeah.
I think it's kind of, I think that criteria contemplates a highest and best use analysis.
In effect.
I think that criteria contemplates a highest and best use analysis.
Oh, well, perhaps, yeah. That the alleged hardships relative to the properties in question is unique and does not apply to a substantial portion of the district or the neighborhood.
That's true.
Yeah.
We can get through that.
That the requested use variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the neighborhood.
Well, I mean, that gets into our decision about the screening and how much of the land is being used. I mean, well, that's a finding we could make.
That it is, and one thing I did learn, that, you know, say if we were concerned about traffic activity, that the permitted uses, if the traffic were comparable to permitted uses, that we couldn't deny, say, this use variance based on that it might be generating traffic, especially if it's not more than one of the permitted uses, so. And that the last being that the alleged hardship has not been self-created.
Well, we make that finding all the time.
Well, but one of the things I just do in our trainings and what's made apparent is that, you know, when the owner was not aware of that particular aspect of the property being allowed when they bought it. But so, I mean, if you know right off the bat that, you know, this is not a use that is allowed. I mean, if you
Which
buy.
is why they're asking before they
Well,
buy it.
exactly, but again, that's where we have to get.
I think we get into what we can do with criteria. Criteria one is going to be the difficulty here, and I think we need to.
Well, Chris, what's the minimum lot size in R2 zoning district?
2.3.
So call it 2.5, what's 81 divided by 2.5? So if I wanna max this out by building houses,
You have to have 60 foot of road frontage though.
you know, I mean,
That's
we're
fine.
talking anywhere from 25 to 30 lots of.
Right.
Single family homes, which that's 25 to 30. Assuming one vehicle per household, you know, I mean, we certainly are well under the traffic threshold.
Yeah, no, I agree, but
Oh, okay.
that was
Okay.
one of the,
Oh, I misunderstood you, I'm sorry,
No.
okay.
so we couldn't, this came up, again, having to do with uses. That if a permitted use, you know, which allows for a certain amount of traffic,
Mhm.
and that this activity is not gonna generate any more traffic than that, then, you know, it becomes a non-factor, say.
Okay,
I think
All right.
our ability to grant the use variance becomes how much leeway we have on factor one. Especially since they're not trying to generate income off of it, it's a
It almost
subsidiary
seems like
use
that
of their
doesn't
business.
apply.
But,
Right, but it's a finding we'd have to make, and I don't know what we would do about it,
yes,
and that's one of the questions. we
Which
need to
makes me
get from
think-
Teresa.
right,
Well,
maybe,
we have 30 days to figure it out.
yeah,
Right, and to consult counsel, we could
Right.
set up a hearing on it.
yeah. Which again makes me think a use variance wouldn't be as appropriate, because again,
Right,
what the
especially
nature of
use
this
permit, if we
activity-
could squeeze it into something, would be more appropriate, we just can't find
That's
it.
what we were-
So the problem is, what other vehicle is there?
well, that's why we were looking at, you know, either special use permitted, or site plan,
I don't think
you
you
know,
can change the zoning.
No,
yeah, I
You
mean,
can't do that.
no, we
No,
don't
I
want to
agree.
spot zone it, we're trying to
yes,
jam it into a private garage.
this is what, this is literally the exercise we went through with planning board last week and Teresa. You know,
yeah,
Teresa was the one who suggested that we come before you.
well, we should thank her for that.
We're gonna thank you for that.
Well, that's fine.
Set up a hearing, we
Yeah.
will consult Teresa about exactly what she thinks we have the power to do.
Okay.
And then we have till February 18th to
All
reach a
right, that's,
conclusion.
I guess we can do that.
Yeah. I'll make that motion, I will second.
Okay, so. All right,
With this.
oh.
I put there. Under 14.5.2A that we're looking. Alright, so I move that we set a public hearing for Structure for Companies LLC for a use variance relating to 12352 Dwaynesburg. Let me start again. I move that we set a public hearing for the Structure for Company located at 11 Arch Street, Waterloo, for a special use permit for a property located at 12352 Dwaynesburg Road.
Use variance. That was incorrect, correct?
Yeah, that was
Right, it's a use variance, yeah,
Not a special
right.
use, but a
Use
use
variance.
variance, yes.
So at 1325352 Dwaynesburg Road, 75.00-1-12.11. For a special use variance under 14.5.2 sub A. To be held February 18th at 7 PM or as soon thereafter as they can be heard.
And I'll second that.
Vice Chairman Lock.
Aye.
Chairman Gage.
Aye,
Board Member Boggs.
Aye.
Board Member Gainsler.
Aye.
Board Member Leoni.
Right, so a hearing will be held on the 18th.
Okay.
And we have to find out if we
Understood.
really have the power to.
So I should probably stay in touch with Chris or Lindsay in the meantime.
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
I said, I don't know how much leeway we have under what you're referring to, not entirely inappropriately as the highest and best use test.
You know, we have to find all four of these factors made.
And I think Nelson will know fairly quickly after talking to Teresa, whether this can move forward or not.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, well, we can still, we'll prepare for the public hearing. And then again, if we're still in need of,
Right, I mean, we can also discuss with Teresa whether we can create a special use that, but whether we can find a special use that it would fit into. And therefore not need the use variance.
Do we need any more information from our gentleman applicant?
I don't think so.
That I know of at this time.
Yeah. Um,
Again,
Again, if we-
Chris did mention that, you know, if we were successful in getting the use variance, that there would be a condition in terms of, like you said, there was one planning board member who has a background in this, right?
yeah, like I said, I talked to Teresa about possibly you guys putting the conditions that he'd have to go back to planning board for a site plan approval or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So that we make sure that he's getting his SWIP.
And.
Well, yeah,
Right.
well, and I assume, yeah, right, you already have an application with the parent planning board, right, that was just put on hold.
No,
No.
they basically rejected it because he wasn't, it had nothing to do with them.
Oh,
Well, I think
okay,
they tabled, they didn't.
They
formally
tabled it
table
for you, yeah.
yeah,
In the event that
so
they said, you guys sent him back.
so there's something open there, we can send them back.
Well, I think it's if you guys approve the use variance, you could possibly, like I said,
Then.
site plan to make sure that, like.
we can
like
put conditions.
Charles said, make
Yeah.
sure that he's not just using dirt as a parking lot, right?
Right.
Or, you know, that he's getting his SWIP on.
Well, we-
Yeah, there's all kinds of things that
So
the planning board makes sure. is
in
happening.
C2, the light industrial,
Mhm.
there is an allowance for storage. Okay, there must be criteria as to what is considered storage facility, right?
Yeah, the definition is in here.
Right, so then we could look at that as well.
Because these will not need a building permit, is that right?
You won't need a building permit.
Okay, then.
Right now, they're not building any buildings yet.
Yeah,
So we definitely should have some.
That's my thing.
Or we would need some type of disturbance permit, right?
Yeah, well, you'd have the DEC, yeah.
all right, yeah, storage facility, a commercial structure housing goods for a fee, a structure designed as a depository of goods for later use, that's storage building. So,
Now, structure doesn't have to. Structure doesn't have to be a building.
well, okay, but then again, we're gonna have to, you know, see what,
So we're gonna have to come up with something like, well, you need 12 inches of gravel and
Uh,
6 foot
yeah.
high fence or
Right,
stuff like that.
well, you conditions of approval, right?
Yeah.
You can put that you need, it needs to be fenced in, you could say that, you know,
well,
And if you have plans
Uh-huh.
for what you expect to do or what was done at the previous site that you could provide to Chris.
Like a site plan? I mean, it's
What you
kind of
plan
apples
to-
and oranges, you know,
what
you're
you
talking
plan
about 4 acres in the middle colony as opposed to 81 acres, that's pretty wooded rural.
Well, I'm just talking about how you, after you cut down the trees, what you plan to do to.
I mean, I would gladly show you a photo that, like, my client is, I'll say, works on neurotic with how meticulous he is about things, so. I'll gladly show you what it looks like right now, because.
More like site details. than
Yeah.
site-
right garage, it says, oh, wait a minute, it says enclosed space.
We'll have to put a fence around
It also says-
it.
Well,
Teresa got tripped up because it says motor vehicle, because she tried the garage.
One or more motor vehicles, because they wanna store other stuff beyond them vehicles.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, I would make the argument that a loader or excavator is a motor vehicle.
No, I think it's the
it's a
signs.
motorized
I
vehicle.
think, I think it's the signs and stuff you were referring to.
Oh, sure, well, I mean, I was thinking this kind of I have a philosophy degree, so I'm like loving this.
This is what I went to law school for, yeah.
Anyway, I wanna see where other municipalities have, you know, acreage, land, whatever, used for storage, period. And how they address it. Unless it's,
Village of Lansing's doing it right now.
or,
Sunbelt.
Sunbelt's one of them, and they also have, right there on Railroad Ave, they're storing equipment and telephone poles. One of the Verizon or somebody's.
oh, okay,
Using a piece of property
But that's-
as storage.
yeah,
But
but
that's
that's temporary,
Verizon.
is it?
Sunbelt's not. Sunbelt's definitely not.
They're storing mats
Okay,
and equipment.
well, again, that would be part of investigating other scenarios similar to this and see what, how it was justified.
Now, that's the village and not the town. I understand they're two different entities.
Right,
For now.
For now.
all right. All right, so we set the,
Fruit and a
public
lot
hearing,
lately.
okay, so,
I've heard that a lot lately.
I'll touch base with Chris later this week.
all right, yeah. We can do some homework and then, definitely reach out to Teresa and see what, how we can make this happen.
Understood. I appreciate the board's willingness to hear.
Yeah, very much problem.
Alrighty.
So the last thing we have is the meeting minutes. The other thing I wanted to bring up is everybody's, I see Matt, you submitted your trainings. I did some as well. You're good?
I'm on top of it.
Okay, good, all right. What I'm gonna, normally I would go to the Hudson Valley, their offerings, you can get it all done in one day. What I was able to do though, there's a guy named Mark Shackner, and he has spoken at the Hudson Valley, you know, planning and zoning, that it's the CDRPC, Capital District Regional Planning Commission. Anyway, so I ended up looking for some of his webinars, which I found. They're on YouTube, and CDRPC has, you know, all their webinars listed. So for me, that was, and I, you know, went through and I picked ones that I thought would be of interest. What I like about this guy, he talks about, you know, the difference between, you know, what's considered the letter of the law and what's the, technical legal advice and practicality of implementation, which is, you know, kind of interesting because he puts things in layman's terms and makes it, you know, again, you might be more versed in the legalese. than
Well,
most.
yes, I do the same thing, but in my, Caitlin and I both need to take continuing legal ed.
Right,
And we have found, or I have found and told her, and she was very excited, that you can kill both birds with one stone, basically. So I take at least 4 hours a year of continuing legal ed that's zoning,
Right.
zoning related,
Yeah.
which is similar, but it doesn't put it in layman's terms. So,
but this guy is very good about, you know, things that we may confront. So the ones I had chosen were some complex issues in planning and zoning decision-making. And then there was another one, ethical considerations for planning and zoning. And the one I got a lot out of was a planning and zoning case law update. In fact, remember when we used to have our trainings in-house, that's what Teresa would do. And she would show, you know, decisions that primarily the zoning board or planning board that they made that somehow had gotten challenged, and then kind of what the result was. And it was very insightful, so that, again, you don't repeat maybe other mistakes that people have made, so. Anyway, that's,
Yeah, those are
It's good to-
good questions.
yeah, and, one of the things, and this was interesting in this last one, planning and zoning case law update, is that municipalities apparently, they have to have a zoning board if you have zoning ordinances. You don't necessarily have to have a planning board. Because there's sometimes, depending, and I guess in some of the more rural communities, they say the county would do the planning aspect of it. But if you have like local ordinances, you have to have a zoning board of appeals because,
You need someone to appeal to.
well, that you have a right to petition your government, and that is the mechanism for that. And I haven't been aware of that, so. I mean, I always think the zoning board is maybe, I don't know, a little brother compared to the planning board, but we actually have, some authority in a way that the planning board does not. Anyway. I thought that was kind of interesting. So. Just look at the minutes.
Second page. First paragraph near the bottom of the right-hand side, it says cell town.
First page,
Second page,
Second.
well, back to the first page.
which paragraph?
First paragraph. Near the bottom. Of the paragraph, not the page.
Okay.
First cell town. Third line up.
Never fails, no matter how many times I look it over. At least I got gangster right this time.
That's why we do this. I mean, it's, as long as it doesn't significantly change the meaning or intent of what was conveyed, but.
The announcement where we had the minutes altered is now in the minutes.
Yeah. The debated version, yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't escape it.
Now we got competitive without the competitiveness.
Well, I didn't want it to be, again, where it looked like it was adversarial again.
Yeah.
We had a healthy discussion about what
Mhm.
we were trying to say. So, and yeah, as far as those two applications that we did, we tabled from last time, again, the poultry operation, they were looking to join that property. So there were two separate parcels and then determine a placement for that building that met, that agricultural requirement. The other, the tower, I guess Bryson's gonna do a balloon test. They're gonna basically have a balloon go to the altitude of the top of the tower, I guess, just to look at, they're not doing this till sometime in February, so we may not see that back our way for a while.
That'll be done February sixth.
Okay, so,
It's interesting because, we, at Chippo, we do that with cell towers, but don't do balloon tests, they just give us a CGI map, but the GIS. map,
oh, right,
It's all done on, it's all done through GIS.
oh, okay. In fact, I didn't, when we were asked to provide recommendations for, I don't know, was it the solar project?
Hmm.
And did you recommend that, or there's some way of
Yes.
getting a
Yeah,
visual,
For out to a half a mile. Mhm.
right? But you could via a map,
Yes,
like a three-dimensional
yeah,
thing.
you just program it in. You basically tell the thing what you want, and it spit out a picture.
Yeah, ah,
So Verizon knows what they're doing.
yeah.
This isn't their first cell tower.
No.
No,
Now, the nice thing about, that particular use variance, because it's unique to the cell tower, I don't know, what was the Rosenberg, I don't know, criteria, that, again, it didn't have to meet that use variance criteria in the way that we would do
No,
for
because
other
there's special
applications.
rules for.
Yes.
Yes.
So that made it easy for us, so if we could find something similar to that for storage, then we're off the
Well,
hook.
that's weird. Storage facility is specifically allowed. Storage building is defined, but
Well,
I didn't
that's-
see where that was
Again,
permitted use anywhere.
yeah,
There's a definition for it, but it's not in any use for any zone.
right.
So if we're done with that, can I move, we accept the minutes from. Was it from December
September 17th.
17th with the
No,
one
sorry.
liner?
Sorry, December 17th.
Yeah, thought I said that.
Sorry,
I second that.
all right. Vice Chairman Lack,
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
All right,
Chairman Gage,
I,
Board Member Gainster, Board Member Leoni.
couldn't say.
Abstain.
oh,
Let's see.
Yes.
that's one,
Because he
yeah,
wasn't
we
here.
have enough.
We have enough votes that he wasn't here to
Yeah.
judge on the.
He was
accuracy of the.
So, yeah, you're on board for this, but if there were only the four of us, we might have to cajole you into approval. All right, anyway, I just want to say thanks to everybody for being here and showing up. I mean, this is good what we do, I think it's important. Serves our community, which is kind of what it's all about, so.
I'm just here for the big bucks.
Well, there you go.
You got $25.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, me too.
That's almost minimum wage.
Yeah, barely. All right, so somebody make a motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
All right,
What is that motion?
very good, thank you.
Board Member Gage,
All right,
Board Member Leoni,
Aye.
Vice Chairman Lack,
Aye.
Board Member Boggs,
All right.
Board Member Gainster.
Aye.
all right.